Welcome to the Funeral Channel Network podcast. Today, we are taking a deep dive into something that, well, it touches the absolute core of the human experience. It's a task that most of us at some point will face, and almost none of us feel ready for it. It usually happens during what is, one of the most stressful weeks of our lives.
It's that moment where public speaking meets profound grief. And that is a very difficult intersection.
A very difficult intersection. We are talking about the art of crafting a heartfelt eulogy.
Yeah.
And the premise we're working with today is, I think, fascinating. It's drawn from the art of crafting a heartfelt eulogy and also some really helpful educational resources from the funeral program site.
Right.
And it suggests that while we obsess over getting the words exactly right, the magic of a eulogy isn't actually in the polish, it's in the presence.
That's so right. There is this immense pressure to do it right. You feel like you're standing on a tightrope, really. You've got one chance to sum up an entire human existence in, 5-10 minutes? And you have to do it while your own heart is breaking.
Talk about high stakes. I mean, it's often called the emotional anchor of the funeral service, isn't it?
It is.
If the music sets the mood, the eulogy, it kind of provides the meaning.
Exactly. But the hook here, and this is what I think will be such a relief to, anyone listening, is that the source material argues that the perfect eulogy is a myth.
A myth.
A total myth. And trying to achieve that perfection is actually the wrong goal entirely.
Okay, so if the goal isn't perfection, which I think we all secretly aim for, what is it?
Well, the mission, as the text frames it, is to move from a list of dates and facts,
The
safety net that everyone clings to, and instead to capture the essence of the person.
Resume versus essence. I love that. So let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
So first off, the expert insight here defines the eulogy in a way I hadn't really thought about before. It says it's not just a speech.
No.
It is an act of remembrance.
And that is such a crucial shift in perspective. A speech is a performance.
Right, it's about me.
The speaker.
It's about you. Do I look okay? Is my voice shaking? Did I use the right grammar? You get all wrapped up in your own anxiety. But when you view it as an act of remembrance, the focus shifts. It becomes about them.
About the person you're there to honor.
It becomes about the person in the casket or the urn. And the source uses this beautiful phrase, a eulogy brings presence into absence.
Presence into absence. Okay, can you expand on that a little? It sounds profound.
Think about the funeral setting itself. Everyone is there because of a loss, a huge loss. There's a void in the room. You can feel it. The person is gone.
Yeah, that space they used to occupy is empty.
Exactly. But for those few minutes of the eulogy, through the stories and the memories you share, that person, they become vividly present again.
It's like you're summoning them back for just a moment.
In a way, yes. It's what differentiates the eulogy from something like a written obituary. An obituary is static, right? You read it alone. It's information. It's a list of facts.
A eulogy happens in real time. It's alive. It's shaped by the pauses, the sound of sniffles in the audience, the unexpected laugh that ripples through the room.
It's a communal experience. You're all in it together.
You are. And it allows the gathered community to feel seen in their grief.
Seen. How so?
Well, when you describe the specific way your grandmother used to hum while she cooked, everyone in that room who heard that hum, they go, yes, I remember that.
No.
And suddenly, in that one shared memory, they aren't grieving alone anymore. They're grieving together.
That is powerful. But okay, getting from a blank page to that moment of connection, that's the hard part.
That's the mountain to climb.
So let's talk about section 1, the mental shift. The source warns against something it calls the resume trap.
And this is the default mode for almost everyone. I mean, you sit down to write, you panic, and your brain just starts listing milestones.
Right. He was born in 1955. He went to Jefferson High. He worked at the Ford plant for 30 years. He married Susan. He liked golf.
And while all of that is true, none of it tells me who he was.
It's a timeline, not a tribute.
It's a history report. Facts provide context, sure. And we need some of that context. We need the basics. But facts don't convey character. A list of dates is not a life.
So why do we do it? If it's so ineffective, why is that our first instinct?
Because it's safe. It's easy. Facts are objective. You can't get a date wrong. Well, you can, but it's verifiable. Emotion is messy. Subjectivity is scary. So when you're grieving and your brain is foggy and you're exhausted, you cling to the timeline because it gives you this chronological rope to hold on to.
But the source suggests we need to, consciously fight that instinct. We need to pivot from what happened in their life to a different question.
What kind of person were they?
What kind of person were they?
That is the pivotal question. The moment you ask that, you stop looking at the calendar and you start looking at their character.
So we're looking for meaning rather than just milestones.
And meaning emerges when you pair a fact with an interpretation.
Okay, give me an example of that.
Okay, so a fact is, she volunteered at the soup kitchen for 20 years. That's a resume point.
Right.
Meaning is, she volunteered at the soup kitchen for 20 years because she believed that no one should ever have to eat alone, a value she learned from her own grandmother, who always said an extra plate at dinner.
Oh, I see. The because is where the magic is.
The because is everything.
Yeah.
You're looking for their values, their habits, their sense of humor, their generosity, their resilience. The text mentions quiet strength, which is something you'd never find on a resume.
No, absolutely not.
These are the things that define a soul, not the job title they held in 1985.
And the best way to deliver this, according to the funeral program site and the text we have, is through anecdotes.
Show, don't tell. It's the oldest rule in writing, but it is never, ever more important than in a eulogy.
Can you give me an example of the difference, the show versus the tell?
Okay, so the tell version. You could stand up and say, my father was a very generous man. It's an adjective. It's nice sentiment, but it's abstract. It goes in one ear and out the other. It doesn't really land.
Right. It's generic. My dad was generous. Your dad was generous.
Exactly. But now, the show version, suppose you say this instead. My father was the kind of man who, even when he was out of work in the 80s, would still pull over to help anyone with a flat tire on the side of the road.
Okay, I'm already picturing it.
I remember sitting in the passenger seat one time, watching him change a tire in the pouring rain for a complete stranger getting soaked to the bone. And when he got back in the car, he just smiled and said, well, we're lucky we have a dry car to go home to.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that paints a whole picture.
And now, you don't have to tell me he was generous. I know he was generous. And more importantly, I feel his generosity. I understand the kind of generous he was.
And I can picture him. I can see the rain. I can hear his voice saying that.
That is the power of the anecdote.
Yeah.
A single, simply told story can reveal more about a person than a 20-page resume ever could.
And the goal, as you mentioned earlier, is to help the listeners recognize those familiar traits. You want people in the audience to nod and think, that's so him or that's so her.
That recognition is the connection point. It's the spark. It connects the audience to the speaker, to the memory, and to each other.
The funeral program site really emphasizes thinking of the eulogy as storytelling.
It does. For 10 minutes, you are the narrator of this person's legacy. You are not a reporter reading the news. You are a storyteller sharing emotional truth. And it doesn't have to be exhaustive detail. It just has to be true in spirit.
But, and here's the big but, how do you find those stories? Especially when, as we mentioned, your brain is just fog.
And that brings us right to section 2 of our outline, the gathering phase.
Yeah, the source mentions grief fog as a legitimate psychological hurdle. It's not just feeling sad.
It's physiological. It's not in your head. Grief releases cortisol, the stress hormone. It affects the hippocampus, which is deeply involved in memory retrieval.
So it literally makes it harder to remember things.
It literally narrows your perspective. You might find yourself sitting there trying to write, and you can only remember the last few months of their life, which might have been difficult or filled with illness.
You get tunnel vision on the end, rather than the whole rich journey of their life.
Correct. It's a survival mechanism in a way. Your brain is trying to process the immediate trauma, so the text suggests a brilliant solution: crowdsourcing.
I love this idea. You don't have to do it alone.
You shouldn't do it alone. The strategy is to invite family and close friends to share their stories.
So what does that look like? Do you send out an email?
It could be that formal, but it doesn't have to be. It can be as simple as sitting around the kitchen table with pizza and just asking, what's the first thing you think of when you say her name? Or what's a funny story you remember?
And what are we looking for in those answers? Are we looking for big, life-changing moments?
Not necessarily. In fact, sometimes the small things are more powerful. We aren't looking for epic tales. It doesn't have to be that time he saved a puppy from a burning building.
Right, because most lives aren't action movies.
Exactly. We're looking for the small, specific things, a repeated phrase they always used, like, it is what it is, or a specific way they drink their coffee, or a small habit. Maybe they always hummed while they cooked.
Those little texture details that made them who they were.
Exactly, the human stuff. And when you gather these inputs from different people, something amazing happens. You start to see patterns. The text calls this pattern recognition.
Okay.
So if your cousin mentions that she was always the first person to call on your birthday, and her coworker mentions she always brought donuts for the office on Fridays, and her next-door neighbor mentions she always waved from the porch.
You found a thread.
You found the thread of thoughtfulness or connection. And once you identify that thread, that consistent virtue or quality, you can structure the entire eulogy around it.
So the thread becomes the spine of the speech. Instead of a timeline, you have a theme.
Yes, and there's a huge secondary benefit to this crowdsourcing process. It reinforces the communal nature of the event. It reminds you, the speaker, that you are not carrying the weight of this tribute alone. The burden isn't just on your shoulders.
That's a huge relief. You're just the mouthpiece for the group.
You're the voice, but the eulogy becomes a collective expression. You can even say that in the speech. You can say, I was talking to Aunt Sarah the other day, and she reminded me of the time when...
That's great. It brings other people into the circle and shares the honor.
It makes everyone feel a part of it.
Okay, so we've made the mental shift away from the resume.
Yeah.
We've crowdsourced some amazing stories. We've found our threads. Now, we have to actually build the thing.
Yeah.
We need to talk about structure.
The engineering of emotion.
Which sounds so cold engineering. But the source argues that structure is actually what allows the emotion to land safely for everyone.
It's not cold at all, it's supportive. Think about it this way. Imagine grief is a very turbulent ocean. The structure of your speech is the boat. If you don't have a boat, you're just treading water and you might drown in the emotion. Structure keeps you afloat, and just as importantly, it helps the audience follow along.
Because the audience is in that same ocean too.
They are. And their attention spans are short, their emotions are high. If you just ramble on without a clear path, you'll lose them. They won't be able to hold on.
So what is the recommended arc? The source outlines a pretty classic three-part structure.
It's classic because it works. It's intuitive. You have the opening, the middle, and the closing.
Let's break down the opening. What's its job?
The opening sets the tone. It's where you take a collective breath and ground the room. And you have a few options here.
Okay.
You can acknowledge the loss directly. Something simple like, we are all here today with heavy hearts. You can express gratitude. Thank you all for being here to celebrate the life of. Or you can offer a brief reflection on how hard this moment is.
Just naming the elephant in the room.
Yes. Saying something like, I've been dreading writing this because writing this means he's really gone is an incredibly powerful way to start.
Because it's honest. Everyone's feeling it.
It's honest, and it connects instantly with every single person in that room.
Okay, so you set the stage. Then we move to the middle.
The middle is the heart. This is where you put all those beautiful anecdotes we talked about. This is where you pull on those thematic threads. If the theme is generosity, this is where you tell the story about the flat tire in the rain.
This is where the essence lives.
This is where it lives. And you want to group these things. Don't jump from a story in 1950 to one in 2000 and then back to 1960. It's confusing.
Right.
Group them by theme. He was a man who loved nature. Tell a story. He was also a man who loved a good practical joke. Tell another story.
That makes it so much easier for people to follow and absorb. And then, the closing. What's its purpose?
The closing looks outward. You've spent the middle of the speech looking back at the person's life. Now you look forward. You look at the legacy. What do we do with this loss? How do we go forward from here?
So this is about impact and continuation.
Exactly. You're offering comfort. Something like, because of him, we all know how to be a better friend. Or, let's honor her memory by being a little kinder to strangers, just like she was. You offer a sense of continuation. The love doesn't end here.
The funeral program site advises simplicity and restraint throughout this structure. Why is that so important?
Because when emotions are this high, less is more.
It's the paradox of meaningfulness.
It really is. Clarity and restraint make a tribute so much more powerful. If you try to be too complex or use flowery, poetic language that isn't natural to you or go on for too long, you dilute the impact. A simple, honest sentence hits harder than a whole paragraph of adjectives.
This leads us perfectly into section 4, which is all about tone. Because you can have the perfect structure, but if the tone is off, it's not going to land at all.
Tone is everything. And the biggest battle here, according to the source, is authenticity versus idealization.
Ah, the saint syndrome.
The saint syndrome. We have this cultural instinct to, canonize the deceased the moment they pass.
Right. He never argued. She was always patient. He was the perfect father.
And everyone in the audience who actually knew the person is sitting there thinking, well, that's not quite right, because nobody is perfect.
And when you say they were perfect, what happens to the audience? What's the effect of that?
They disconnect. They feel the dissonance. They might even feel a little resentful, especially if their relationship with the person was complicated, which many are.
So honesty is actually more comforting in the long run.
The source argues that acknowledging imperfection feels far more authentic. It builds trust with your audience. If you say, look, he could be stubborn as a mule and he never ever asked for directions, but he would drive to the ends of the earth for you, that's a real person.
That feels like a hug.
Yeah.
The perfect version feels like a cold statue.
Exactly. We mourn humans, not statues. The goal is a tribute that feels true.
What about humor? I've been to funerals where humor was the best part and others where it felt just awkward.
Humor is a powerful tool, but it's a sharp one. You have to handle it with extreme care. The rule of thumb from the text is, it must be respectful.
So laughing with the memory of the person, not at the person.
100% correct. It should arise naturally from who they were. If they were a known prankster, tell a story about one of their best pranks. If they had a dry wit, share a memorable one-liner.
And what does that do for the room?
It releases tension, it reminds listeners of joy and personality, it breaks that heavy, suffocating atmosphere of grief for just a second, and that is a real gift to give the audience.
But don't force it. If you're not a stand-up comedian in real life, a funeral is not the time to try out new material.
Please don't. And this also touches on handling struggles. This is a really delicate area. What if the person battled addiction or had a difficult temper?
Do you just scrub that out of their life story? Pretend it didn't happen?
You don't have to scrub it out, but you don't have to dwell on it either. The guidance is to acknowledge challenges only if they contribute to understanding their character or their resilience.
So, for example, saying he fought his demons for 20 years versus, airing a bunch of dirty laundry.
Right. It's the difference between he struggled for a long time, but he never, ever stopped trying to be better for his kids, which turns a struggle into a testament of love. And just recounting painful memories. The goal is never to reopen wounds or cause more pain for the people in the room.
Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room for the speaker themselves. The delivery, Section 5. The absolute fear of breaking down.
This is the #1 reason people refuse to give eulogies. They say, I can't, I won't get through it, I'll just cry.
And the expert perspective here is, so what? So what if you cry?
It's about reframing the emotion. The text says emotion is not a flaw, it is evidence of love. If you cry, it just shows the depth of your loss. It's a testament to how much that person meant to you.
But practically, you still want to be able to speak. You don't want to be sobbing uncontrollably for 10 minutes straight.
True. So we need some practical preparation techniques.
What are the physical things we can do to prepare?
First and foremost, practice aloud, multiple times. Reading it in your head is completely different than speaking the words. Your throat reacts differently. Your breath catches in different places.
And while you're practicing, you can identify the emotional landmines.
Landmines?
Yeah, that's what the source calls them.
Oh, that's a great term. Yes. The specific phrases or stories that you know are going to make you choke up.
So what do you do when you find one?
You mark it on the paper. If you know that talking about the last fishing trip always makes you cry, you write pause or breathe in big red letters right before it.
So you're giving yourself a literal visual cue to prepare for the wave of emotion.
Exactly. And room management is key. It is absolutely acceptable to pause. If you get choked up, just stop. Take a sip of water, look up for a second. Breathe. The silence is not empty, it's filled with support.
Right. The audience isn't judging you. They're with you. They're rooting for you.
They are sharing the moment. They are likely crying right along with you. They understand.
What about safety nets? The text mentions a few.
Always have a printed copy.
Not just on your phone.
Definitely not just on your phone. Phones dim, batteries die, your hands shake, and you accidentally scroll too fast. Paper is stable. And print it in, 14-point font, double-spaced. Make it easy to read through tears.
That's a great tip. And what about having a standby person?
This is a brilliant strategy. Ask a sibling or a cousin or a close friend to stand or sit in the front row, and you make a deal beforehand. If I look at you and nod, that's the signal. You come up and finish reading it for me.
Wow. Just knowing that safety net is there must be huge.
It's often enough to give you the confidence to not even need it. It removes that ultimate fear of total failure.
It really does. Okay, now, length. We all worry about this. How long should a eulogy be?
The consensus is that longer is not better. The source suggests 5 to 10 minutes is the ideal range.
That sounds really short to sum up a whole life.
It sounds short, but in speaking time, that's actually quite substantial. Think about a TED Talk. Even the long ones are under 20 minutes. 10 minutes is a long time to hold a room's emotional attention.
And for the audience, 10 minutes of intense emotion is a lot to process.
It is. The funeral program site notes that editing your eulogy is an act of care. If you ramble for 30 minutes, you're not honoring the person more. You're just exhausting the audience. If you edit it down to a tight, beautiful, impactful 7 minutes, you are caring for them. You are giving them something poignant that they can hold on to.
Simplicity allows emotion to breathe. I love that concept from the text. If the speech is too dense, we can't digest it.
Exactly. You want to leave some space. You want to leave room for the listeners to connect their own memories to the words you're saying.
This brings us right to the audience connection. We've touched on this, but let's go a bit deeper. Section 6, the dual purpose of the eulogy.
Right. We think the eulogy is for the dead. And in a spiritual sense, it is. We're honoring them. But practically speaking, the dead are not listening. The living are.
So you are servicing the grief of the entire room.
You are helping the audience locate their own grief. That's such a profound idea from the text. Sometimes we feel this big amorphous cloud of sadness, but we don't know why or how to process it. The eulogy gives us a map. It gives the grief a name and a story.
So how do you make sure everyone feels included? If you just talk about my dad, do the work friends or the neighbors feel left out of that story?
You have to be intentional about inclusion, but it's easy to do.
Yeah.
Simple acknowledgments work wonders.
Like what?
You can just say, I know many of you knew him from the plant where he was a mentor to so many. Or to his grandkids who are here today. He wasn't a manager or coworker, he was just pop-up.
You're just noticing and naming the different circles of his life.
It validates their relationship. It says, your loss matters too. I see you.
And the healing aspect.
Yeah.
The funeral program site talks about this intersection of remembrance and healing.
Meaningful funeral elements absolutely support healing. When you reflect on the person's influence, when you say, he taught us all how to be brave, you are giving the audience a tool. You're giving them something to take home with them.
You're affirming that the life mattered beyond the moment of loss.
It's not just that he lived and then he died. It's that he lived, and because he lived, we are all different. We are better.
And that is the very definition of legacy. Which leads us to our final section, legacy and preservation.
Yeah. A eulogy feels so ephemeral, you know? You say the words, the air vibrates for a few minutes, and then it's gone.
But the words stick. The source argues that the eulogy is actually a historical document.
Even if it's just on a crumpled piece of paper in your pocket.
Especially then.
Yeah.
It so often lives on. Families keep these things. They put them in the family Bible or in a memory box with other treasures.
Or now, I suppose, digitally.
Yes. It can be included in the printed funeral programs, which is a service the funeral program site specializes in, or it can be recorded on video and shared online.
It's the long tail of comfort. That's a perfect way to put it. Writing a eulogy is an act of preservation. You are freezing a version of that person in time from a specific loving perspective.
So it's not just for today, it's for the future.
Absolutely. 10, 20 years from now, a grandchild who might be too young to remember the funeral can read that eulogy and get a real, tangible sense of who their grandfather was.
That gives me chills.
It becomes one voice among many, but often because of the care and the thought and the love put into it, it's the voice that brings that person's life into the clearest focus.
So let's try to synthesize all of this. We've gone from the terror of the blank page all the way to the long-term legacy of the text.
Let's wrap it up.
We started with this huge, daunting task.
Right.
But by shifting the focus from resume to essence, we take the pressure off. You're not a historian, you're a storyteller.
We use the gathering phase to get help from others and find those thematic patterns. We use structure not to be rigid, but to safely engineer the emotion for ourselves and for the audience.
We prioritize authenticity over this impossible idea of perfection, which allows for real human moments like humor and honesty about their quirks.
We prepare for the delivery so emotion doesn't derail us, but we also accept that emotion is not just okay, it's evidence of love.
And finally, we realize this act of remembrance is for the living, for the audience, and for the historical record.
And that core definition we started with holds true at the end of it all. It is not about eloquence, it is about presence. It is about speaking love into memory.
Speaking love into memory. That's beautiful. I think that's the phrase I'll take away from this.
At its heart, crafting a eulogy is an act of courage. It really is. It asks you to be vulnerable. It asks you to stand up when all you want to do is curl up, to speak when you feel you have no words.
But the reward is that you get to honor a life not just as it was lived, but as it was loved.
And that is the ultimate gift you can give to the deceased, to the community, and ultimately to yourself.
Before we go, we always like to leave you with a thought to chew on. We've spent this whole deep dive talking about how to write a eulogy for someone else. But let's flip it. If a eulogy is really about capturing the essence of a person, their small habits, their values, how they made people feel, rather than their resume.
What small habit or value of your own would you hope someone remembers to speak about?
It's a challenge, really, to live a life that provides that heartfelt material for someone else to work with.
So the question is, are you living for the resume or are you living for the eulogy?
That's a big question to end on. Go live some good stories, everyone. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Take care.